Small and big business alike concerning new concerns about President Obama's pick for a key labor post. Craig Becker, now appointed to the National Labor Relations Board, one of President Obama's recessed appointments that he made last week while Congress is out of session. And here are a few of his key positions on things. Becker thinks that employers should not be involved in any union elections. In other words, the unions can make their case, but the employers must sit silent. He also thinks that they should be barred from all election challenges. He's also on record saying that traditional democratic principles should not apply to union elections. Mark Mix is president of the National Right to Work, and he's my guest now. Mark, now, we had the debate before Becker got the recess appointment about whether President Obama should do it. He's done it. Becker's on the NLRB now, the National Labor Relations Board, which oversees union disputes between unions and their employers at various places of business. So what now can Americans expect in terms of positions from this guy?
Well, I think it's going to be a really, really interesting time at the National Labor Relations Board. Craig Becker went from being the Associate General Counsel of the Service Employees International Union on Friday to being a member of the 5-member National Labor Relations Board on Saturday evening, the board that's commissioned with interpreting America's labor law. In fact, this guy has a history, as you pointed out, Megyn, and radical positions about how workers are unionized and basically a complete disdain for independent-minded workers who'd like to avoid unionization. It's going to be a really interesting time. I think that the president is trying to give unions card check, force unionism legislation without actually passing it through Congress.
Get specific. What exactly is it that's so controversial? I mean, obviously he's pro-union. That's not a surprise. Who else would you expect President Obama to nominate or to put on the NLRB? So what specifically is it about Craig Becker that has people concerned?
Well, I think if you look at his writings going back to 1998 and some stuff he wrote in 2005, he says that workers should have no choice, either by secret ballot election or by card check, about whether or not they should be in a union. He thinks the only choice that a worker should have is which union will they join. That's just an outrageous position. And this is the first time, Megyn, that an acting union lawyer has gone from employment at a union right to the National Labor Relations Board. You know, his position on employers not being involved in the process, his position on access to employees and how votes will be conducted, it's just a really radical position. In fact, from a standpoint of the Right to Work Foundation, this guy has an obsession with us. In fact, we have 12 cases pending at the National Labor Relations Board right now involving Craig Becker and the SEIU. One case he's an actual attorney of record on. We have over 150 charges pending at the lower levels of the board that this guy's somehow going to sit on, and he just does not like us, the Right to Work Committee, because we're offering a service to employees that want to object to compulsory union membership.
Well, but is there an argument to be made that he may have written about union relations in one way, and certainly he took certain positions while representing the nation's biggest union, the SEIU. But once he gets on this NLRB, he'll be fair and he'll listen to the side of management and try to come to an impartial decision.
Well, I hope that's the case, but I doubt it based on his writings and his biases and the fact that he's a party to several cases at the board. You know, he and Wilma Liebman, who's a former Teamster lawyer, is now the chairman of the National Labor Relations Board, have basically said they can do card check without any statutory authority.
Okay, wait, card check? Explain what card check is.
I'm sorry, Megyn, I don't want to get into lexicon. Card check is a mechanism for certifying unions as bargaining agents for all employees. Under current law, workers are entitled to a secret ballot election in order to determine whether or not they want to be part of a union. In Craig Becker's world and in Wilma Liebman's world, that secret ballot election would no longer exist.
Well,
in
and
fact,
this is something that Congress toyed with, but they didn't have the support for doing that, for mandating sort of the open ballot instead of the secret ballot. But my understanding is Craig Becker doesn't necessarily think that that's a deal breaker to forcing card check on employers.
Well, he has probably written about card check, and card check may not be the ultimate prize. I think what Becker has written about, and what I think a lot of independent-minded workers ought to be worried about, is an arbitration provision, which I think organized labor sees as their real prize in this particular term of Congress and the National Labor Relations Board, and that is basically getting the NLRB to rule that first contracts have to be imposed on employers and employees during a certain time frame when actual negotiation is basically shut down.
Oh, Mark, let me ask you this before I let you go.
On this are just
obviously, you don't like the guy, and you do have a horse in this race because you represent management, and then these disputes are going to go before the NLRB. But my question to you is, how can you complain? I mean, it's President Obama's right to use this recess appointment. It's President Obama's right to choose who's going to go on there. Now, yes, the Senate is supposed to, confirm, but they didn't hear. He couldn't get anybody on the board, and the board's only had 2 people on. It's supposed to have 5. So what was he supposed to do? Pick some pro-management guy? Is it a surprise that Barack Obama didn't do that?
Well, first of all, Megyn, we don't represent any employers. All we do is represent employees. We represent over 200,000 in about 200 cases right now in various levels of the NLRB and the court system. So we represent employees that are objecting to compulsory union membership. Secondly, I think this particular recess appointment is really on the edge. I mean, certainly the president has the right to advice and consent, to do nominations, and to recess appoint. But I think 41 senators on the Republican side asked the president not to do this. 2 Democratic senators voted against him when they tried to move the nomination earlier. And this is really just a payback to organized labor for the billions of dollars they spent to elect this president to the White House.
All right, Mark Mix, thanks so much for coming on with your insights on it. Obviously, Craig Becker has an open invitation to come on the show, and anybody in the Obama administration who wants to talk to us about their view on Craig Becker, come on. We'd appreciate it. All right, Mark.